Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're going to be talking about something I know a lot of you are really interested in: the future of learning. You've sent in some super interesting sources and we're ready to unpack them together. I'm um, I'm especially excited about this research paper called Innovations in Education Technology: The Future of Learning. It seems like the perfect roadmap for our journey into the world of ed tech.
What I find so intriguing about this paper is that it goes beyond just listing cool new gadgets. It really delves into how these technologies are actually reshaping the very concept of education itself.
Absolutely. And I think a great place to start is with something we're all familiar with: the classroom. Remember those old blackboards we all grew up with?
Mhm.
Well, they're being replaced by these interactive smart boards. It's a pretty big shift from chalk dust to touch screens.
Yeah, it's definitely more than just a cosmetic change. Think about it. Smart boards open up a whole world of possibilities for visual learners. There's instant access to tons of digital resources and even real-time collaboration on projects. It really changes the dynamic of the classroom.
Yeah, it's like bringing the internet right into the heart of learning. And speaking of the internet, let's talk about those digital learning platforms that are really changing the game. Platforms like Google Classroom, Khan Academy, and Coursera. I mean, they're like these gateways to this huge universe of knowledge.
And what's really powerful about these platforms is their potential to democratize learning. It's no longer limited by where you live or even if you can afford traditional schooling. Anyone with an internet connection can access a world-class education.
And it's not just about access either. A lot of these platforms offer personalized learning experiences that are catered to an individual's pace and learning styles. I'm thinking of the platforms like Duolingo and Squirrel AI, which use artificial intelligence to tailor lessons to each student.
Yeah, that's where things get really interesting. AI can actually analyze a student's strengths and weaknesses and then adapt the learning content in real time. It's almost like having a personalized tutor that's constantly adjusting the lesson plan based on your needs.
So it's not just about delivering information. It's about understanding how each student learns best and providing that customized support. I mean, it sounds like AI could fundamentally change the role of the teacher.
Well, and that's actually a question a lot of educators are grappling with right now. Some see AI as this tool that can free up teachers from repetitive tasks, allowing them to focus more on things like mentoring, fostering creativity, and building relationships with their students. It's a shift from being the sage on the stage to becoming more of a guide on the side.
I see what you mean. So instead of simply imparting knowledge, teachers could become facilitators of learning, helping students navigate this ever-expanding universe of information. And that actually brings to mind another area where technology is really pushing the boundaries: virtual and augmented reality. Imagine like stepping into ancient Rome or dissecting a human heart, all from the comfort of your classroom.
Yeah, and the paper really highlights the power of VR and AR to make learning truly immersive and engaging. I mean, it's one thing to read about the circulatory system, but it's a whole other thing to virtually explore the inside of a beating heart. It can make abstract concepts tangible and memorable in a way that traditional teaching methods just can't match.
Right. And these aren't just futuristic fantasies either. Tools like Google Lens and Merge Cube are already bringing AR into classrooms, making subjects like science and history come alive in a whole new way.
Yeah, these technologies have the potential to completely transform the way we engage with information. It's not just about reading or listening, it's about experiencing and interacting with knowledge in a much more multisensory way.
It sounds as learning could actually become dot fun. I know some people might roll their eyes at that, but when you think about tools like Kahoots, Minecraft Education Edition, and quizzes, it's clear that gamification has a really powerful role to play in education.
Yeah, the paper actually goes into the psychology behind why gamification works. It really taps into our natural desire for competition, rewards, and a sense of accomplishment. Like when you earn a badge or level up in an educational game, it triggers that dopamine rush that keeps you motivated and wanting to learn more.
It's like sneaking in learning while you're having fun. You're so engaged in the game, you don't even realize you're developing critical thinking skills, problem-solving abilities, and even teamwork skills.
And honestly, that's just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the power of gamification. Imagine learning complex subjects through these immersive simulations or collaborating with your classmates on virtual projects. It just opens up so many possibilities for engaging learners and making education more interactive and enjoyable.
Okay, so we've gone from smart boards and digital platforms to AI tutors and virtual classrooms. It seems like every aspect of education is being touched by technology in some way. But what about the role of remote learning in all of this? It seems like we're moving beyond that traditional brick-and-mortar classroom model.
Yeah, and that's definitely a key theme that emerges from the research. Platforms like Zoom, Microsoft Teams, and Slack has become essential tools for connecting students and teachers from all over the world. It's creating this truly global classroom, breaking down geographical barriers, and making learning accessible to anyone with an internet connection.
It's like the world becomes your classroom. And it's not just about attending live lectures either. It's about accessing resources, collaborating on projects, and getting feedback all from anywhere in the world.
It's about fostering that sense of community and connection, even when learners are physically separated. It's about creating a learning environment that's flexible, accessible, and personalized to meet the needs of each individual.
It sounds like remote learning is no longer just a temporary fix, but rather an integral part of the future of education.
It's definitely a trend that's gaining momentum, and as technology continues to evolve, we can expect to see even more innovative ways to connect learners and educators, regardless of their physical location.
This is all incredibly exciting, but I'm curious, with technology advancing at such a rapid pace, how do we ensure that everyone has the opportunity to benefit from these innovations? I'm thinking about issues of access, affordability, and even digital literacy. Not everyone has the same opportunities to engage with technology.
Oh, that's a crucial point, and it's actually something that the research paper addresses directly. Bridging the digital divide is a complex challenge that requires a multifaceted approach.
So what are some of the key steps that need to be taken to ensure that technology is a force for educational equity rather than a source of further division?
Well, one crucial area is infrastructure. We need to make sure that everyone has access to reliable and affordable internet service, especially in underserved communities. This might involve things like investments in broadband expansion, public Wi-Fi initiatives, and even exploring innovative solutions like satellite internet.
That makes sense. It's hard to talk about digital learning if people don't even have access to the internet. And what about the devices themselves? Not everyone can afford to buy the latest laptops or tablets.
Oh, absolutely. Providing affordable devices is another key piece of the puzzle. This might involve initiatives like subsidized device programs, partnerships with tech companies to offer discounted hardware, and even, exploring alternative models like device lending libraries.
It sounds like there's a real need for collaboration between governments, educators, and technology providers to create a more equitable playing field.
Collaboration is definitely key, but we also need to address the issue of digital literacy. It's not enough to just provide access to technology. We need to empower individuals with the skills and knowledge to use it effectively. This might involve offering digital literacy training programs, integrating technology education into school curricula, and even partnering with community organizations to provide support and guidance.
It sounds like bridging the digital divide requires a much more holistic approach that goes beyond simply throwing technology at the problem.
Exactly. It requires a commitment to equity, accessibility, and empowerment. We need to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to participate in the digital world and benefit from the transformative power of technology.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about the exciting ways the technology is transforming the classroom, breaking down barriers, and creating new opportunities for learners of all ages. But there's still so much to explore.
We've just scratched the surface. There are so many fascinating trends and innovations that are shaping the future of learning, and I'm excited to dive even deeper with you after the break.
Welcome back. Right before the break, we were talking about how important it is to bridge that digital divide so that everyone can really benefit from this whole ed tech revolution.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to get caught up in all the amazing possibilities, but we have to think about the potential downsides too. One thing that I keep coming back to is data privacy. With all this personalized learning and AI tracking student progress, how do we make sure we're protecting that sensitive information?
That's a really good point, and luckily it's something that researchers and policymakers are very aware of. Actually, the paper we've been discussing has a whole section dedicated to data security and ethical considerations in edtech.
Oh, that's good to know. So, what are some of the safeguards that are being put in place to make sure that student data is being handled responsibly? Well, one thing is that there's a big emphasis on strong data encryption and anonymization techniques, and that helps protect student information from unauthorized access and misuse.
Okay, that makes sense. It's like putting a digital lock on student data. What else?
There's also a push for greater transparency from edtech companies. about how they collect, store, and use student data. Parents and students have a right to know how their information is being handled, and they should be able to opt out of data collection if they want to.
It sounds like there's a real shift towards empowering people to control their own data, which is good.
It's all about finding that balance between using data to make learning better, but also making sure we're protecting privacy and autonomy.
Okay, so data privacy is one big issue. What are some other challenges that we need to be thinking about as we, navigate this kind of uncharted territory of ed tech?
Well, one thing that comes to mind is the potential for bias in AI algorithms. If these algorithms are trained on biased data sets, they could end up, perpetuating existing inequalities or stereotypes. For example, if an AI-powered tutoring system is mostly trained on data that reflects the learning styles of one specific demographic group, it might not be as effective for students from different backgrounds.
That's a really important point. We can't just assume that technology is inherently neutral or objective.
Yeah.
We need to be really mindful of the biases that can be baked into those algorithms.
Exactly. That's why it's so important to have diverse teams developing and auditing these algorithms, making sure they are designed to be fair and equitable for all learners.
It sounds like ethical considerations need to be at the forefront as we continue to develop and implement new technologies in education.
Absolutely. But we can't just blindly embrace technology without thinking about the possible consequences. We need to be having these conversations about these issues and make sure that technology is being used to create a more just and equitable world.
It's almost like we're entering this new era where, ethics is just as important as coding. But to get back to the positive side of things for a moment, this research paper makes a really strong case for the rise of lifelong learning. It seems like learning is no longer something you just do in school. It's a continuous process throughout your entire life.
That's right. In today's world, things move so fast that the knowledge and skills you have can become outdated pretty quickly. To stay relevant and adaptable, we need to be constantly learning and evolving.
And thankfully, technology is making it easier than ever to access learning opportunities outside of those traditional institutions. Think about all the online courses, tutorials, and resources that are available at our fingertips. You can learn almost anything you want whenever you want.
And it's not just about that formal learning either. Technology is also helping with informal learning through online communities, social media groups, and even gamified apps.
Wait, so you're telling me I can actually learn valuable skills by playing games on my phone? Tell me more.
Oh, there's this whole world of educational apps and games out there. They can teach you everything from coding to languages to financial literacy. It's about finding the right tools and resources that fit your interests and how you learn best.
I'm getting so excited about the future of learning. It feels like we're moving away from that rigid one-size-fits-all model of education and towards something much more personalized, flexible, and accessible.
Yeah, it's a shift from passively taking in information to actively engaging and exploring. It's about giving people the power to become lifelong learners, always looking for new knowledge and skills to succeed in a world that's always changing.
It's like education is becoming more integrated into our everyday lives. But with all this talk about technology, are we in danger of forgetting about the human side of education? What about things like social interaction, critical thinking, and creativity?
That's a great question. And to be honest, it's something the research paper addresses head on. Technology isn't meant to replace those essential parts of learning. In fact, it can actually make them even better.
Oh, I see what you mean. Like how online collaboration tools can actually help people improve their teamwork and communication skills.
Exactly. Students can work together on projects, share ideas, and learn from each other even if they're not physically in the same room. And technology can also be used to encourage critical thinking and creativity. Think about those virtual simulations where students have to solve tough problems or digital art platforms where they can express themselves in totally new ways.
I'm starting to see how technology can be this powerful tool for amplifying the human element in education, not getting rid of it. It's all about using technology thoughtfully and intentionally to create more engaging and meaningful learning experiences.
It's about finding that balance. We need to embrace what technology can do, but also make sure we keep those human connections and interactions that are so important for learning and growing.
So it's not about technology versus tradition, it's about finding a way for them to work together. It's about using the best of both worlds to create a richer and more dynamic learning environment.
That's a great way to put it. It's about recognizing that technology is a tool, and just like any tool, it can be used in good ways or bad ways. The key is to use it wisely, ethically, and with a deep understanding of how it can affect learners, educators, and society as a whole.
This conversation has been so thought-provoking. I'm feeling um, excited, but also a little overwhelmed by all the possibilities and challenges that are ahead of us. So what are your final thoughts on this deep dive into the future of learning?
I think the biggest takeaway is that the future of learning isn't something that's just happening to us. It's something that we're actively creating through the choices we make, the investments we make, and our vision for what education can be.
It's pretty empowering to think that we have a role to play in shaping the future of learning. But where do we even begin?
I think it starts with being open to change, to try out new approaches and to have these open and honest conversations about what role technology should play in education.
It's about being curious, being critical, and being brave in our pursuit of a more equitable and empowering educational landscape for everyone. That's a future I can definitely get behind.
Me too. And as we go into this uncharted territory, it's so important to remember the main goal of education, to give everyone the power to reach their full potential and contribute to a better world. Technology can be a huge help in that quest, but in the end, it's up to us to make sure it's used wisely and ethically to create a future where learning is this lifelong journey of discovery, growth, and fulfillment.
This has been such an amazing deep dive into the future of learning. We've covered so much, from smart classrooms and AI tutors to virtual reality and the rise of lifelong learning.
And we've really only just scratched the surface. There's so much more to explore, so many exciting possibilities coming our way.
Before we go, I want to circle back to something you mentioned earlier about how we're actively shaping the future of learning through the things we choose to do. What can each of us do, like on an individual level, to make sure technology is being used to create a more equitable and empowering educational experience for everybody?
That's a great question. I think it starts with being aware. We need to know how technology is being used in education, both the good and the bad. We need to have those thoughtful conversations about the ethical side of these technologies and support policies that promote equity, accessibility, and responsible innovation.
So it sounds like we all have a part to play in shaping the future of learning, whether it's through the choices we make as consumers, how we're involved in our communities, or how we engage with people making policies.
Exactly. We can support organizations working to bridge the digital divide. We can advocate for more transparency and accountability from ed tech companies, and we can encourage the creation of educational technologies that are made to benefit everyone.
Wow, this deep dive has given me so much to think about. I'm feeling really inspired and hopeful about the future of learning, but also really aware of the responsibility we all have to make sure technology is being used to create a more just and equitable world.
I feel the same way. The future of learning is really in our hands. It's up to us to embrace the possibilities, work through the challenges, and build a world together where everyone has the chance to learn, grow, and thrive.
That's a perfect note to end on. Thanks for joining us on this incredible journey into the future of learning. It's pretty amazing to think about how much the world of learning has already changed, and it seems like we're really just getting started.
Oh, yeah. We are definitely still in the early stages.
Something that really stood out to me in that research paper was how technology is kind of making us rethink what it even means to be educated.
It's a huge shift, for sure. In the past, being educated usually meant having a specific set of knowledge and skills, the things you'd learn in school and then use throughout your career. But in a world that's changing so fast, that model just doesn't really work anymore.
Because what you learn today could be totally outdated tomorrow, right?
Exactly. The pace of change is so fast, and the things we need to know to succeed are always evolving. What matters most now isn't just what you know, but how you learn, how you adapt, and how you can use what you know to solve new problems.
So it's less about memorizing facts and more about developing those adaptable problem-solving skills.
Yeah, that's it. It's about having that mindset of always wanting to learn, always being curious, and always being willing to take on new challenges.
So like becoming a lifelong learner, always being curious, always looking for new knowledge and skills.
That's the core of it. And that's where technology can play a really big role. It can give us the tools and resources to support lifelong learning. It can connect us with experts and mentors from all over the world, and it can even create personalized learning experiences that are tailored to our individual needs and interests.
It really sounds like technology can help us move past the limitations of traditional education and create something much more personalized, flexible, and engaging for everyone.
It has the potential to make learning accessible to anyone, anywhere, at any time.
This has been such an incredible deep dive into the future of learning. We've talked about smart classrooms, AI tutors, virtual reality, the rise of lifelong learning so much.
And we've only just scratched the surface. There are still so many exciting possibilities out there.
Before we wrap up, I want to go back to something you said earlier about how we're the ones shaping the future of learning, to the choices we make and the things we do. What can we each do to make sure technology is being used to create a more equitable and empowering educational landscape for everyone?
That's a really important question. I think it starts with being aware of what's happening. We need to understand how technology is being used in education, the good and the bad. We need to have conversations about the ethics of these technologies and support policies that promote equity, accessibility, and responsible innovation.
It sounds like we all have a part to play in shaping the future of learning, whether it's through our choices as consumers, our involvement in our communities, or our engagement with policymakers.
Exactly. We can support organizations that are trying to bridge the digital divide. We can push for more transparency and accountability from edtech companies. And we can encourage the development of technologies that are designed to benefit all learners.
This entire deep dive has given me so much to think about. I'm feeling really inspired and hopeful about the future of learning, but also very aware of the responsibility we all have to make sure technology is used to make the world a fairer and more equitable place.
I feel exactly the same way. The future of learning is truly in our hands. It's up to us to embrace the possibilities, navigate the challenges, and create a world where everyone has the opportunity to learn, grow, and thrive.
That's a fantastic note to end on. Thanks for joining us on this incredible journey into the future of learning.